Welcome to Green and Woke on YouTube. We hope you enjoyed this segment. The link to the entire podcast can be found in the description box. In June, we celebrate Pride. That is the queer liberation movement or the movement for equal rights for the LGBTQ community. The world-famous Pride Parade in New York City is usually held the last weekend of June in commemoration of Stonewall. The Pride movement has now spread around the world, and Pride events are held in many countries during the month of June. This year was a special year marking the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. So what is Stonewall? Well, 50 years ago, and in some states much more recently, being a member of the LGBTQ community was actually against the law. Different laws in different states throughout the country targeted members of the LGBTQ community. In New York City in the late 1960s, the Stonewall Inn became known as a gay bar. Located in New York's Greenwich Village, West Village, people could come and enjoy a drink and camaraderie without fear. However, police would often harass and intimidate the bar's patrons. Although the West Village has been gentrified and today boasts multi-million-dollar properties, at the time, in the 1960s, residents of the area were poor and fairly marginalized. This included some of the most marginalized members of the community, homeless youths, often young members of the LGBTQ community who were runaways and or who were estranged from their families, drag queens, and transgender people. In the early morning hours of June 28, 1969, as police carried out a routine anti-gay raid, bar patrons decided to fight back, some throwing bricks. This time, gay residents of the West Village joined the bar patrons in resistance, and the raid quickly became a riot, which lasted several days. The Stonewall Riots, aka the Stonewall Rebellion, aka the Stonewall Uprising, ended on July 3, 1969. Within weeks, several activist groups have formed to ensure that members of the LGBTQ community had safe places to gather without fear of harassment. Within 6 months, 2 gay rights activist groups were formed in New York City, along with 3 newspapers promoting gay rights. On June 28, 1970, the first gay pride marches took place in New York City, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. The city of Chicago held an event commemorating the Stonewall Riots of 1969. On June 24, 2016, President Barack Obama, created the Stonewall National Monument, designating the Stonewall Inn as a historical site, along with an area around the Stonewall Inn where the riots took place. June 6, 2019, New York City Police Commissioner James P. O'Neill rendered a formal apology on behalf of the New York City Police Department for the actions of its officers at the Stonewall. During the last decade, great strides have been made in achieving equal rights for the LGBTQ community, including the official recognition and legalization of same-sex marriage. However, actions taken by the current Trump-Pence administration have proven that one's rights must never be taken for granted. Indeed, since 2017, efforts have been made to reverse the progress made in securing equal rights for members of the LGBTQ community, including recent local decisions denying gay and lesbian couples the ability to adopt a child or pass their U.S. citizenship to their adopted child. The banning of transgender people in the military, Even though over 134,000 veterans are transgender and over 15,000 transgender people are currently serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. And most frightening, the recent Supreme Court case, Masterpiece Case Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission, decided in June 2018 with Trump's Supreme Court pick Neil Gorsuch. The Supreme Court, in effect, legalized discrimination by overturning an appellate court decision in favor of gay couple who wanted to buy a wedding cake for their wedding. The Supreme Court sided with the owner of the Masterpiece Cake Shop, who claimed he could deny service to a gay couple looking to order a cake because of his religious beliefs. This sets a dangerous precedent within any business that an owner can deny service to anyone based on their identity using their religious beliefs as a pretext. Also, it is important to note, as one LGBTQ activist stated, that Pride is not the commemoration of a Macy's parade. It started with a riot. That is to say, a struggle, and one that was led by the most marginalized members of society, namely transgender people of color. The trans population is less than 1%, estimated to be 0.6% of the total American population. Yet, in states like North Carolina and Texas, politicians have used an aggressive campaign of disinformation, lies, and propaganda to vilify this vulnerable community. North Carolina passed a bathroom bill using propaganda to instill fear about members of the trans community. Luckily, public pressure and threats of business boycotts resulted in the state reversing its legislation. In Texas, concerns about several public outrage and boycotts resulted in the state's failure to implement its own bathroom bill. The truth is, contrary to the fear mongering by politicians, members of the trans community, particularly trans people of color, are far more likely to be victims of crime than perpetrators of it. It should also be noted that since 2016, there has been a marked increase in hate crimes, including crimes against the trans community, as noted by Human Rights Watch groups. Yes, the annual celebration of Pride is a celebration that progress has been made, but it is also a reminder that one's rights can never be taken for granted, as they can easily be taken away. Also, because the equal rights movement was started by the most vulnerable groups among us, trans people of color, we must not abandon those groups now as they continue in their struggle for equality. Remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Green and Woke, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel for great new content.